Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. This is Joe Duman, and we are at Sighted Moon, and we have begun our afternoon teaching on the first holy day of Unleavened Bread. This is March 11th, 2020, and the world is changing and a lot of things happening. Today, I want to do a teaching because a lot of us are going to be presented with this problem. And it's not really a problem, it's just not recognizing the proper way to count. So we have this teaching, and we're going to count. I keep losing everyone. Whoops. We're going to count the 6 days leading up to Passover, or leading up to the death of Messiah, because people use this. For some of you, it's a review. People use this as a means to say that the 14th is a different day or a Thursday, or they change it to Friday. And they use Palm Sunday to start their counting from. And there's a problem with that. Everything that Yeshua did during his lifetime, and I'm watching you, Jillian, I want to make sure you're doing your homework here. Everything that Everything that Yeshua did was an exact duplication of the commands leading up to the Passover. So we are told to go and get a lamb on the 10th day. And we read that this morning. Go and get a lamb on the 10th day. I believe that's in Exodus 13. No, yeah, Exodus 13. See if I can find it here. And on the 10th day, where is it? On the 10th day. Anyone pipe in and help me out here? I don't know where it is. Anyway, on the 10th day, you're to go and get a lamb. So when Palm Sunday comes along, people say that.
If I may, Joe, it's Exodus 12. It's Exodus 12.
12 what?
Verse 3. Exodus 12, verse 3.
Speak unto the congregation of Israel, on the 10th day of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm looking at. Desktop. Okay, can you see this now? Nod your heads if you can see it. Can you see what I got on my screen? No?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so it takes a few
Yeah,
minutes to load up.
can.
Okay, so I'm looking at Palm Sunday in the 6 days before Passover, right? This is my online teaching of it. So we're just going to scroll through this and we're going to go through it. But what I want you to do, can you see do you see my picture here? You see me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want you to make boxes. On your pieces of paper, I want you to make boxes. And you're going to make 7 boxes, and you're going to do 3 rows of them. Okay? 7 boxes and 3 rows, and you're going to number them at the top 1 to 7. Right here. Okay, thank you, Jess. Okay, so when everyone's got their done, just wave at me. You got that done? You got a thumbs up, another thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Okay, and across the top is 1 to 7. And those 1 to 7 represents the days of the week. So you can make 1 Sunday, 2 Monday, 3 Tuesday. Jillian, how are you doing? You got this done? Where are you?
Say it again.
I'm working on it.
Okay. I want you, if you have to, you're going to teach your dad, okay? So 1 is Monday, 2 is Tuesday, 3 is Wednesday, 4 is what? Thursday? Did I miss a day?
Wednesday.
4 is Wednesday, 5 is Thursday, 6 is Friday, and 7 is the Sabbath. Okay?
Joe, first you said to start with Saturday, then you said to start with Monday. Which day is number 1?
Which Sunday is number 1?
Sunday or Monday?
Sunday.
Monday.
Sunday is number 1. Monday is number 2. Right? So once you've got that done, and you've got your days in there, then we can start. Now, remember, this is the year 31 AD. So I'm going to bring up another shot here on my screen. You see what I see on my screen here now?
Yep.
What do you see, Johannes?
Well, it's the month 2 of the Torah calendar.
That's
First
correct.
day, second day, third day.
So
and
this
so on.
is 31 AD. Okay. Now, Torah calendar has it as the second month, but in that year, it was the year that Yeshua was killed.
What year are you looking at?
31 Common Era. Okay, thank you, Buzzy. I see the thumbs up. Okay, so now how can I split my screen? That would be great if I could do that. No? Pause.
Don't think you can.
No. Okay. Okay. So now let's go back to our article, Palm Sunday, and what we're going to do is just going to walk through the 6 days, because John tells us that Yeshua came there 6 days before before the Passover. I'm scrolling down here. I want to get started. Okay, we're going to start in John 12, verse 1. So this article is online. You can just go there and take it. This is you can use this to present this argument or this discussion, whichever one you want to do. But John 12, verse 1. So we start in John 13 there on the foot washing night, and we read all of it. But we didn't start here. So this is the part leading up to the Passover. Why am I turning to? I got it right here on the screen. Okay. Then 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, who had been dead, whom he had raised from the dead. There they made him supper, and Martha served, but Lazarus was one of those who sat at the table with him. What day is this?
Yeah, Thursday?
Wednesday?
Okay, now you're all just guessing.
Friday.
It's Friday. Who said Friday?
Jenny.
Jenny, I don't know which Jenny that is, but okay, that's correct. Now, why did you say Friday, Jenny? Put you on the
I
spot.
counted back 6 days, and you say that Passover was Thursday.
Passover was Wednesday night, Thursday. That's correct. So you've counted back 6 days. But the argument is that the 14th is on a Thursday. So this is what we have to figure out. So now, how do we prove that this is a Friday? I'm in agreement with what Jenny just said, but Okay, that's not good enough. How do we prove it? Okay, so we got to keep reading, right? We got to keep reading in John. So John 12, verse 3. Then Mary took a pound of very costly oil of spikenard, anointed the feet of Jesus, wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. So that's a clue. Okay? Then in John 12, verse 9, now a great many of the Jews knew that he was there, and they came, not for Jesus' sake only, but that they might see Lazarus, whom he raised from the dead. But the chief priests plotted to put Lazarus to death also, because on account of him, many of the Jews went away and believed in Jesus. So we have this thing in John 12:1, where Mary made him supper. What supper would that be? We're not told yet. But here's the thing. Let's start with this being so he arrived there. Then John 12:1, then 6 days before Passover, Jesus came to Bethany. That would be the Friday. That night, Mary made him the supper. That would be the Sabbath meal, Friday night, right? So on your little charts that you made, right? I got to get back to me here. On your little charts, on day 6, that's the day he came, that's a Friday. And then the start of the 7th day, the Sabbath, is when he made the meal. You can put in there John 1 or John 12, verse 1. Okay. So now we're down here in John 12, verse 3. And Mary took a pound of which Mary is this? It could be one of the Marys of, or Mary Magdalene. We're not sure right yet because we're not told. And anointed the feet of Yeshua. Okay, so that all took place on this Friday night. And we're going to bring in some other scriptures here to help put this all together. And then in verse 9, now very many of the Jews came. So that's the Saturday. They've gone out to meet him. They've heard he's there, and they've gone out to meet him on Saturday. So when you're in Jerusalem, how far is that away? Well, we told you this morning to walk from the city of David over to the Mount of Olives, when the bridge is there, is about 5-10 minute walk. Without the bridge there, you got to go down and up the Kidron Valley. It takes about 20 minutes. And we walk people on this too, and we show them. And Bethany is another 15 minutes down the road. So if we give them an hour to walk out to Bethany from Jerusalem, that's what they're doing. So now, let's go back to Torah calendar. Can you all see it there? On my screen.
No.
Okay. You see here the 10th day?
Yep.
That's the Sabbath. That's the 10th of Nisan. Torah calendar is saying this is month 2, but this is actually the first month. So this is the 10th of Nisan. When did she prepare supper for them or for Yeshua? That Friday night, the start of the Sabbath, which is the 10th.
Right.
Yeshua walked there on the 6th day. The 10th is now 5 days before Passover. And what did we read in Exodus 12:3, if I remember right? On the 10th day, you're to select the lamb. And here's Yeshua, the lamb, being selected on the 10th day, being examined by everybody on the 10th day. Okay? So we go back to our notes. Matthew, Mark, and Luke have nothing about the meeting taking place at the home of Lazarus. All we have is John. All three of them then begin with Yeshua coming from Bethpage to the Mount of Olives. John 12:12. The next day, a great multitude had come to the feast. When they heard that Jesus was coming from Jerusalem, they took palm branches from the palm trees and went out to meet him and cried, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel. Then Jesus, when he had found a young donkey, sat on it, as it is written, Fear not, daughter of Zion, behold, your king comes sitting on a donkey. Okay, so now we're going to start doing this chronology here, laying this out according to the other Gospels. So in Mark 11:1, now when they drew near Jerusalem to Bethpage and Bethany, because Bethpage and Bethany are in the same area, at the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples. He said to them, go into the village opposite you. As soon as you have entered it, you will find a colt tied on which no one has sat. Loose it and bring it. And if anyone says to you, why are you doing this? Say, the Lord has need of it. And immediately he will send it here. So we are now coming into what is Palm Sunday. And everyone starts counting from Palm Sunday. And this is where they make their mistake. So Palm Sunday, they believe to be the 10th. And again, when we go back to Torah calendar, and we have the proper year, and we have the proper month, Torah calendar says the 10th is on the Sabbath. Palm Sunday is actually the 11th day. Okay, I'm checking the Beebe family. How are you doing? You still with me on this? Jillian, I see you looking at me. Give me a thumbs up. Is that a thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up? Okay, Kevin, you're the head here. You know what? You got it? Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you,
Whew. As long as Jillian's getting, I'm happy. I don't care about the rest of it.
hey,
Okay, so we're looking at the calendar here, and Palm Sunday is actually Nisan the 11th. What have you just done by doing this? Just this little bit thus far. You have disproven the argument that most people come to you saying that you're supposed to take a lamb on the 11th day, or I mean on the 10th day, and start examining it, and that's Palm Sunday. And that's their justification for having Passover on Thursday. Hang on. Having the crucifixion of Yeshua on Thursday. Okay? Just this little bit of information disproves what they're trying to do to you. Satan knows the scriptures, and he uses these people who are our brethren to try and get us off the truth. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my notes. We're in Mark 11, verse 1. Yeshua rides on a colt on a Palm Sunday. Now we're going to go to Mark 11, verse 12. Mark 11, verse 12. It should be on your screen. Excuse me. Now the next day when they had come from Bethany. So the next day, what day is that? The Monday. Now the next day when they had come from Bethany, he was hungry, and seeing from afar a fig tree having leaves, he went to see it. Now, have you been following these reports? What's happening to the fig trees right now in Jerusalem?
They're budding. God bless them.
They're just putting out their buds. Is there going to be a fig on the tree? No. But he's hungry. He's looking for a fig on the tree. There's no figs going to be there. The fig tree doesn't stand a chance here. It's not ready. But this guy is hungry. He went to see if perhaps he would find something on it. This would be a fig from last year. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. Of course not. It's Passover season. In response, Jesus said to it, "Let no one eat fruit from you ever again." And his disciples heard it. Yeshua is not mad at the fig tree. He's performing a miracle so that they might believe. So they came to Jerusalem. Then Jesus went into the temple and began to drive out those who bought and sold in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers. So what day is this? This is Monday. So on your charts that you have, mark down Monday. Okay. Again, on Torah calendar, this is now Nisan the 12th. Okay, so he comes to Jerusalem, or he comes to Bethpage or Bethany on the 9th. He has supper with Mary and Lazarus at the beginning of the Sabbath. Then the next day, they're coming to meet him and to see Lazarus at their home. This is the 10th, when you select the land. Palm Sunday, he rode into Jerusalem on the 11th. Now we're on Monday, and he's about to curse the fig tree. And now he's in the temple, again with John 11 or Mark 11, verse 12. Then Jesus went into the temple and began to drive out those who bought and sold in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he would not allow anyone to carry wares through the temple. Then he taught, saying to them, "Is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations? But you have made it a den of thieves." And the scribes and chief priests heard it and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his teachings. When the evening came, when evening had come, he went out of the city. Where did he go? Back over to Bethpage. So we've now come to the end of Monday. Mark then goes on to tell us about the events that took place on the Tuesday. So we're now on, if you look back here on Torah calendar, we're now on the Tuesday, the 13th of Nisan. So if you guys go to Torah calendar and print this off, you could have done that. I would have been cheating, but I want you to do the exercise on your paper. Okay?
I think now I'm starting to catch up again.
I'm sorry, who said that? Speak up.
Sorry, Joe, that was me. I got a little confused for a bit. I think I'm starting to catch up again now.
Okay. I don't even know who that is. Is that Buzzy? I didn't see that. Buzzy,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
I
Okay,
had my camera off for a bit.
okay, so now we're back onto our notes. Now, in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree. We're at Mark 11, verse 20. They saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, remembering, said to him, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree, which you cursed, has withered away. Look." And Yeshua answered and said to them, "Have faith in God, for assuredly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be removed and be cast in the sea, and does not doubt it in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them." He's teaching them an example of having faith in the things that they've asked. Because remember what he said there at the Last Supper? Whatever you ask of the Father, he will grant you. He's just demonstrating it here right now. So you can continue reading in Mark, and you can read up until chapter 13. You read all the events that happened that day. We come to Mark 13, verse 1. Then as he went out of the temple, so all the things he did in the temple that day are covered there between Mark 11:20 and Mark 13:1. And you can go and read that on your own. Mark 13:1. Then as he went out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, Teacher, see what manner of stones and what buildings are here? And Yeshua answered him and said, Do you see these great buildings? Not one stone shall be left upon another that shall not be thrown down. Again, this is Matthew 24 that does the same thing. Now, as he sat on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew asked him privately, Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of all these things? All these things will be fulfilled. And Yeshua answered them, begin to say, Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and will deceive many. But when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be troubled, for such things must happen, but the end is not yet. And this is the time we're in right now that he's talking about. Mark then goes on to say in Mark 14 that after 2 days will be the Passover. Mark 14:1. After 2 days will be, after 2 days it was the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by trickery. So now we're going to go back to our Torah calendar. What day is this that we just said? This is the Tuesday. This is Nisan 13. And if you count 2 days, after 2 days it says, so Nisan 13 and Nisan 14, after those 2 days is the Passover, which is Nisan 15. Everything that we're told in the Gospels is true when you have the proper chronology. Manage participants. Admit. Okay. Welcome, Sal. We're just doing the chronology of the 6 days before the Passover. Move you over there. So right now we are back in Mark 14 after 2 days, and we're showing you that in Torah calendar, which is on the Tuesday when this was said. After 2 days is the Passover. When you understand that the Passover is at the beginning of the 15th, this makes perfect sense. But when you have the Passover at the beginning of the 14th, your chronology gets all screwed up. Everybody still with me?
Yeah.
Let me go back. Where are the BBs? BBs, are you still here? You still got it? Jillian? Okay, Jillian, just so you know, there's a test at the end. You're going to repeat all of this to all of us, okay? Oh, the panic attack just set in. Okay, Jillian, just honestly though, do you understand what I'm saying so far?
Kind of.
Kind of? Does your dad? That's a thumbs up. So, Jillian, you kind of understand. Your dad can explain the parts that you don't understand afterwards, okay?
Okay.
So what we're trying to do, there's an argument that people say that the Passover, when he was killed, was done on a Thursday. And they're trying to justify Friday for the crucifixion day.
Okay.
So this is what we're disproving here right now. Okay? So we're going to go back to our notes. I'm picking on you a little bit because I like doing that. Okay. Matthew 26:1, we read the same statement, only this time by Yeshua himself, talking about the, well, let's just read it. Now it came to pass when Jesus had finished all these sayings that he said to his disciples, you know that after 2 days is the Passover and the Son of Man will be delivered to be crucified. So again, we're saying this on the Thursday and after 2 days. What did he say? So he's now said the Passover is after 2 days. further on, let's go to Matthew 26, verse 17. Now, on the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying to him, "Where do you want to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" Okay? So when you understand this, things make sense. And he said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, to the teacher, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples." We're in the book of Matthew right now reading this, Matthew 26, 17. So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When evening had come, okay, we are on Tuesday, and they're preparing the Passover. How many of you prepared for the Passover on Tuesday? I did. I got the house clean. I prepared for the Passover on Monday too. I got the house clean. Sunday, I did most of my preparation. The disciples here are preparing for the Passover. It's Tuesday and they're preparing. Back in Matthew 26, verse 17. So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When evening had come, he sat down with the 12. And as they were eating, assuredly I say to you, one of you will betray me. So what is this? This is the Last Supper. We did that ceremony the other night. Now, this is now puts us into the evening of Tuesday, the start of Wednesday. And if you're looking at the calendar here, we have now begun the 14th day. Everybody with me? Okay. This is all review. Most of this is review. So, but we're doing this because for the newer people, this is an exercise you need to do because you're going to be presented with an argument that the Passover, the death of Messiah is on the Friday. And this is even being put forward by brethren who keep the Sabbath and the holy days, justifying the Friday crucifixion so that they can count the 3 days and 3 nights and end up on a Sunday resurrection. Brethren are putting this forward. But their logic is wrong and it starts at the very beginning of this exercise that we've done tonight.
Joe.
Go ahead, who's asking that?
Hey, this is Brenda. Judith, I'm sorry, Judith is trying to get in. Can you receive her in?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Joe, would you address at the beginning of verse 17 how it calls this the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread? Because that would be Passover, would it not?
That's right. This is where things get confusing because the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Mark, and the Gospel of Luke all label Passover in a general term over this whole feast time. What we've done here in these, starting with the foot washing ceremony and then on the preparation day, each of these days we've gone through and we've read the scriptures in John. We've done this specifically so that you can understand the chronology. When people just read Matthew or just read Mark or just read Luke, this is where the misunderstandings take place. Remember when we all kept Christmas? I'll meet you at Christmas time. What day is that are we going to meet at? Well, it's during the week of Christmas. Between Christmas and New Year's. It's sometime in there. This is the same thing. They are saying in general terms at Passover. Passover is a blanket statement. But if you use just the book of Matthew by itself, you're going to be led astray. This is why we've gone to John and started with John with the foot washing and walked you through that each day. Did I explain that properly? Does that make sense? Whoever asked that question, Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does make sense. And I'm so glad that you hit all of the Gospels and all of the stories that were given, because what I've run into is that people are celebrating Passover when we're doing the foot washing meal.
Yeah, that's right. Who's asking this, by the way? I don't see
Who?
my, oh,
Jenny.
Jenny. Okay. Yeah, so what we've done this week is each of the teachings we've done here have been at the proper time reading the scriptures of John. And I stick with John because he does the chronology properly. We're doing the 6 days before Passover now, and I'm showing you that on the Torah calendar so that you can do this in your brain and understand. You need to do this because of what happens when people start confusing the accounts in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And they begin to justify the keeping of the Passover at the beginning of the 14th, which, as we know, was the Last Supper meal, which, as we know, was the fast of the firstborn. We talked about that yesterday morning. And this is why we do what I do, to walk you through it step by step, day by day, to remove all the confusion. So if you just begin now at the end with the book of Matthew, you've defeated everything that I've just presented to you over the last few days. Well, you haven't defeated it, you've muddied the waters. Again, looking at the chart here, or at the Torah calendar, we see that he arrived in Bethany on the 9th. He had supper with Mary and Lazarus for the start of Sabbath. The people came to examine him, as we read in Mark, on the 10th, which is the day that the lamb is to be examined. He rode into Jerusalem on the 11th, on Palm Sunday, and then killed the fig tree. Cursed the fig tree on the Monday. On the Tuesday, they saw the fig tree, and he went into the temple, and then he says, in 2 days' time is the Passover, and it says in a couple places, which we've just read, and now we've arrived at the place where they are now having the Last Supper, which is the start of the 14th. And that's what we've done here is in examining this. So I have to take a moment to deviate for 1 second. Many use this verse to justify keeping Passover. So we've just explained that to Jenny, and I thank her for asking it. But now we're going to go to the Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges. Below is a commentary on this one verse. It is now Tuesday at sunset, will be in the beginning of Wednesday, and the preparation day. Passover is still 2 days away. Passover will be on the Thursday at the start of sunset. Okay, so let me just read this so that those listening on the radio. Now, I tried to put this on the podcast, and that's when my computer crashed today. So I'll try and get to, this is a problem. My computer's loaded up. It's almost time for a new one. This is getting old, this computer. But anyway, for the audio people, you watching can read it, see it here. The first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, this was the 14th of Nisan, which commenced after sunset of the 13th. It was also called the preparation of Passover. The Feast of Unleavened Bread followed the Passover. And lasted 7 days from the 15th to the 21st of Nisan. The 15th to the 21st, not the 14th. Hence the two feasts are sometimes included in the term Passover, sometimes in that of unleavened bread. On the evening of the 13th of Nisan, every head of the family carefully searched for and collected by the light of the candle all the leaven, which was kept and destroyed before midday on the 14th. The offering of the lamb took place on the 14th at the evening sacrifice, the afternoon sacrifice, which was done at 3 p.m., which on this day commenced at 1:30, or if the preparation fell on a Friday at 12:30. I'm not sure what they're saying here. The Paschal meal was celebrated after sunset of the 14th on the 15th of Nisan. The events of Passover are full of difficulty for those who are trying to harmonize it. It is, however, almost certain that the Last Supper was not the Paschal meal, but was partaken of at the beginning of the 14th, that is after sunset of the 13th of Nisan. Okay, now I've thoroughly got everybody confused right now, haven't I? Nobody's saying nothing because you're all confused. You need to read this comment slowly and carefully. What we've now done is we've walked through this exercise, and that was what I wanted to do today, is just walk through the exercise, counting the 6 days that John is talking about, that Yeshua came 6 days before Passover to Bethany. So we're going to go back to Torah calendar. We're going to review this one more time. Six days before Passover, Yeshua came to Bethany. This is Nisan 9. And Mary prepares a supper for him. That's the beginning of the Sabbath, Nisan 10. And then on Nisan 10, everyone comes to meet him with Boaz. This is now the 10th day of Nisan, when you are to examine the lamb and bring it into your household, which is what Mary has done. The 11th of Nisan, Palm Sunday, he rides into Jerusalem on the colt. He looks at the temple and he then leaves. On Monday, the 12th of Nisan, he curses the fig tree and he goes into the temple for the day. On the 13th, the apostles notice the fig tree is now shriveled up, pointed out to him, and he says, in 2 days' time is the Passover. And at the end of that day, they prepare the Passover, prepare for the Passover, and they begin the Last Supper. But this is not the Passover meal. Now, we showed you that in our teaching on the fast of the firstborn, which we did yesterday morning. So this is the start of the 14th. After that meal, he is then arrested in the middle of the night, judged from Pilate by Caius at the house of Caius, taken over to the Dome of the Rock, judged by Pilate, sent to King Agrippa, brought back to Pilate, then brought back over to the Mount of Olives, and he's hung on the tree at 9 a.m. And at 3 p.m. that day, he dies. And he's rushed to put him in the tomb before the high Sabbath begins, which is the 15th. And that's what I wanted you to do today with the charts that you have. And we've shown you here on the calendar to make it easier to understand. Go ahead, Jen.
I want to clarify the meal.
Jen, I can hardly hear you. Have to speak into your mic.
The meal with Lazarus, was that on the evening of the 9th or
On
the evening of the 10th? Was it on Friday evening?
It's the start of Friday evening.
Okay.
It's the end of the night, and what will be called, because sunset is now set, it's the start of the 10th. So it's Friday evening, the Sabbath.
Yes, but they actually had the meal with everybody there on that evening of the 9th, which would be the 10th.
Correct.
They gathered together on Friday night.
It's a Sabbath meal that they're having, yes. Okay, anyone else got questions? Now's the time to put them out.
Joe,
Okay.
it's me again.
Who's me?
It's Brenda again. Lisa would like to be accepted in the group, please.
I don't see Lisa here.
Okay, she's trying. Can you watch for her?
Yep, I
I'll
see it here, but I don't see her trying to get in.
Okay, I'll ask her to try again.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So, Kevin, Bibi, can you explain that back to me now?
Can I explain it back?
Good. Okay, so please, I'm serious. I would like you to explain it back to me. The 6 days, which day is each day?
So we know that Friday was Nissan 9. We know that by John 12:1, which they were having the Sabbath meal on Friday night. Then Nissan 10 comes from John 12:12, talking about the next day.
And what happened on that day?
They were gathering. They heard that Yeshua Messiah was coming.
And so they gathered. Why did they gather there to see him? And what else?
To inspect the lamb.
Okay, that's what's going on. But they also came because Boaz was there with them, so they got to meet the two of them together. Okay? Keep going. You're doing good. Keep going.
Nissan 11 is Sunday. That's Palm Sunday, where Jesus enters Jerusalem. That's from Mark 11:1. And then Monday, Nissan 12 comes from Mark 11:12, where they come upon, he curses the fig tree.
Yep. Now you can read all of Mark 12, the events that go on at the temple, which we skipped today, up to 13:1, I believe it is. Okay.
And then Tuesday, Nissan 13, we have several things. Mark 11:20, they encounter the withered fig tree. We have John 13:1, preparation for the Last Supper and the foot washing. We have Mark 14:1 that says, after 2 days will be the Passover from Tuesday. And that makes Thursday, Nissan 15, the day of Passover.
Okay. And so where are you now? At the end of the Nissan 13? At the end of Tuesday, Nissan 13, where are you?
Where am I?
Yeah, what's going on then? What's taking place at the end of Tuesday?
That's the foot washing in the Last Supper.
Yeah, so they were preparing for Passover, and they then, after they did that, they had the Last Supper meal, right?
Yep.
And then he's arrested that night, and he's crucified the next day on the 14th, which is the Wednesday.
That's right.
Jillian, did he do that right?
Yes.
Does that match your notes?
Yes.
Okay, so your dad passed the test. Very good. Very good. Okay. So now, Jillian, let me ask
Yeah.
you this question. He was in the grave. When did he go into the grave?
Wednesday night.
Wednesday, well, not night, Wednesday afternoon. And why did he have to go in the grave Wednesday afternoon?
Because it was Passover.
Well, it was a high holy day, and they had to get him in the grave before the high holy day started, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the high holy day starts when?
On Wednesday night.
At sunset. Okay, so what chapter, chapter and verse are we looking for now that tells you that? We read it here. I'm not sure if you were here with us when we did it, but that's in John 19. John 19, where's the high holy day? I'm looking for John 19. Oh, right at the very end, John 19:42. So they laid Jesus because of the Jews' preparation day, for the tomb was nearby. That's not the one. Where's the high day? Because it was a high day. Anybody help me out here? How about 31? Therefore, because it was the preparation day, that the body should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day. That's the one. The Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. So they had to get John 19, verse 31, and then John 19, verse 42, those two together. So they had to get him off the tree and into the grave before the high holy Sabbath began. Okay? So now what happens, Jillian? We start counting, because the only way that you know that he's your Messiah, okay? What was the clue that he said he was your Messiah? What's the one clue that he said, the only proof that you're going to have that he's your Messiah?
After the 3 days, he will rise again.
Right. Where'd you get that from? Do you have a chapter and verse?
No, we just watched the Passion.
No, but that's the right answer. So now, okay, so now the proof, because we got to prove everything, we need a proof. Where did he say the only proof I'm going to give you is that 3 days and 3 nights? Somebody help me out, because I don't know it either. Is a sign of Jonah. This is an evil and adulterous generation, and the only sign I'll give you is the sign of Jonah. And Jonah was in the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, so if somebody can find that for me, that'd be great. Just blurt it out. So we'll carry on now, Jillian. So now you got to count. I want you to do the counting here. You got that chart. Remember that chart?
Matthew 12.
Matthew 12? Matthew 12 what?
I think 38.
Matthew 12, 38.
39. 39.
Hang on, still getting back to it. I just want to, so everyone can put this in their notes so they got it.
I cheated online, Joe. It said that it showed Matthew 12:40. This is Buzzy.
Okay, so 38, 39, 40. Where am I? Matthew 12, 38, 39, 40. But he answered and said, okay, so let's start in 38. Then some of the scribes and Pharisees answered, saying, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. But he answered and said to them, an evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days, okay, Jillian, have you got your Bible there? Can you read this? I want to make sure. No?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
For just as
Jonah.
Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the sea monster, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the depths of the earth.
Okay. So that's our only sign that he's the Messiah. Not the miracles he did, not that he said, I am the I am, not that he is anything that he did or anything else. This is the only clue that he's the Messiah. Okay, so now on your screen I have here, he's now gone into the grave Wednesday evening at the start. So what's the first night, Jillian?
Wednesday night,
And what's the second night?
Thursday,
Thursday night. And the
And
third night is Friday night. Right?
Mhm.
That's 3 nights. Now, what are the 3 days?
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Right. So when did he come out of the grave?
On Saturday, which would be Sabbath.
At the end of the Sabbath.
Yeah, end of the Sabbath.
Okay. So now, I don't know if you were here for this part. Do you remember what are we supposed to do for the wave offering? Actually, you weren't here for this part because I'm saving it for Sunday, but we're going to do it here right now anyway. So what is the wave offering? Do you know what the wave offering is?
Not really, no.
Okay, that's fine. I'm using you because you're a great example to teach everybody else. He said, bring the children, don't stop the children from coming to him. So if the children can understand, then the children can teach their adults. That's why I'm not picking on you. I'm helping you to help me teach this lesson. Okay?
Okay.
Is that okay? Can I still use you to do that? I hardly see it. Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On my screen, you're just a little wee head, so it's hard to see. Okay,
Is this better?
that's better. Thank you. And thank you for being a volunteer. I appreciate that. So you've now counted out 3 days and 3 nights. So on the wave offering, what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to cut it after the Sabbath on the wave sheaf day. And we learned that in Leviticus 23. So let's go to Leviticus 23. And we're going to read it. What verse am I looking for? Anybody got it yet?
Verse 9 through 14.
Thank you, Johanan. One of my weaknesses is I cannot remember a chapter and verse. I know what it says, I just don't know where it is.
That's what I have usually too, but this I've memorized.
And the Lord said, so Leviticus 23, verse 9, the Lord said to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land which I give you and reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. This is the barley offering. It's ready right now. Or the first fruits are ready right now. It takes, and Jillian, this grows, the barley grows at different times. So some of it's ready today, others will be ready next week, and others will be ready later. And if you read the story of Ruth, which I encourage you to do, it's a short story. It shows Ruth gathering the barley at different times over 7 weeks. That's what this is about. When you come into the land, verse 11, he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted on your behalf on the day after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. So, which Sabbath is that? Is that after the high Sabbath or after the weekly Sabbath? That's the question. And we have 2 proofs for this. You shall offer it on the day when you wave the sheaf, a male lamb of first year without blemish, a burnt offering. It's a grain offering, shall be 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil. That's not what I want. You shall eat neither grain, neither bread or parched grain nor fresh grain until the same day you have brought in the offering of your God. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. So this is important that we do this because we have to do this forever. And we have to know when the barley is ripe to do it. And that's why we have this controversy every year about which month is the first month. And you shall, so here's the answer to which Sabbath you're to do this from. Verse 15. And you shall count for yourselves from the day after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be completed. So 7 Sabbaths are completed. And then the morrow, count 50 days to the day after the 7th Sabbath. Then you shall offer a new grain offering. So the morrow after the Sabbath is always a Sunday. Okay, you're nodding head. Am I going to, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So which Sabbath are we to start a count from?
The Saturday.
Which, the Saturday, the weekly Sabbath. And why are we to start a count from that weekly Sabbath? Because it says here on the morrow, the day after the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath, when you started your count. That's when you make your second wave offering. That's what we call Pentecost Sunday. And the only way you can get to Pentecost Sunday, or the 50th day on a Sunday, is to start your count on the Sunday, the day after the weekly Sabbath. Okay?
Okay.
Good. Great. This is awesome. I'm glad you're getting this. There's another proof in there, and I believe it's in Joshua 5, verse 10. And that's the one the Jews used to justify them keeping 7 and 6. But if you read it properly, anyway, we won't go there. That's another full teaching. We won't do that. So tonight, on our calendar here, at the end of the Sabbath, when Yeshua is supposed to come out of the grave, the wave sheaf is then cut. Now, they have a tradition that is written in the Mishnah. A lot of people don't like reading the Mishnah because they say it's got bad. There's some good stuff in there, so we should read it and we should learn from it. The Mishnah says that on the Friday, they go out and they mark the barley. They put a ribbon around it, or a cord around it, or a fence around it to keep the sheep away from it, so that it's ready, so that when the high priest goes out after the Sabbath, and it's still not dark, but it's still light enough you can see, he can cut it. And he does a ceremony. And we're going to repeat this again later on on Sunday. Is this the barley I'm supposed to cut? And the people all say yes. And then he says, is the sunset? And the people all say yes. And he holds up a sickle. Is this the sickle I'm supposed to, here's my iPhone. Is this the sickle I'm supposed to cut the barley with? And the people say, yes, that's your iPhone, right? And then he says, shall I cut the barley? And the people say yes. So we'll do that ceremony on Sunday, but for now, he cuts the barley, and what happens? He brings it in, they prepare it, it stands overnight, they prepare it the next day for the wave sheaf day. Now, I want you, Jillian, to go to Matthew 27, because there's a very important thing that takes place.
Okay.
Remember, right now, you've already shown me that he came out of the grave at the end of the Sabbath. So Matthew 27. Verse 50. Have you got that? And Jillian, can you read it for me?
Yes. But Yeshua again crying out in a loud voice, yielded up his spirit. At that moment, the paroquet in the temple was ripped into four from top to bottom, and there was an earthquake with rocks splitting apart. Also, the graves were opened.
Stop. So when did this happen?
At 3.
At 3.
At 3 p.m. on Nisan 14, which we've now shown to be the Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now read the next verse, verse 52.
Also, the graves were opened, and the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. And after
No, hang on. Whoa. It doesn't say they were raised to life. It says they were raised up. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is that telling you?
The that there was like an earthquake and people came out of like the people who had already died who were holy had came back to life.
Okay, so that tells you that they weren't in heaven, right?
Right.
And Jesus said before, Yeshua said before, that no man had gone to heaven except the Son of Man who came down from heaven. So this is an important thing. How come they're coming to life now? Well, first of all, the graves are being marked. So now, when did they come back to life? Read the next verse.
Because of the wave sheath?
Okay. Read the next verse, verse 52. Verse 53.
And coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many.
So these dead saints came back to life when?
After the crucifixion, the resurrection of Yahweh.
And when was the resurrection?
Right after Saturday night.
At the end of the Sabbath. Very good. And then they walked into, so Yeshua came out of the grave and they walked into town. That'd be pretty weird, wouldn't it, seeing all these dead people come back to life? So the question I always ask is, how did you know they were dead if you see them walking around? Did they have clothes? Were they naked? Would you recognize them? Would you know who they were? The saints from 500 years ago? How would you know that?
I believe the families who lost those people, the peoples in their family, they would know it was them, I guess.
Maybe, you could be right. Okay. So you said this is the wave sheaf offering. That's very good. Most people don't recognize that. So that's awesome. So this wave sheaf offering is done after sunset, and it times out to be the exact same time these people came back to life. This is an amazing coincidence. So what happens the next day? Sunday is what most Christians call Ascension Sunday. What happened on Sunday?
He was raised to heaven.
Well, he ascended to heaven, yes. So we're going to talk more about that on the Sunday when this, again, we're doing everything chronologically this week. But you've now done the entire chronology from the 6 days before and the 3 days in the grave, and you've got it at the right time. And that, young lady, is amazing because most adults can't figure that out. So bravo to you. Very good. Thank you so very much for helping me.
Welcome.
Well, I can't tell you, you just made my day. And that I'm not going to get too emotional about, but that's awesome. So thank you very much. So everyone else, that is how you prove the 6 days and which day Yeshua was killed on. And having this chronology with the calendar here makes it easy. And that's why I was having you draw it out on your maps or your paper beforehand so that you could learn it. Now, Jillian, how old are you?
I'm 10.
Okay, so the rest of you, can you figure it out? A 10-year-old just taught you this. Awesome job. Awesome job, Jillian. Thank you.
Thank you for teaching me.
Oh, thank you for letting me teach you. That's amazing. Awesome. Somebody's saying something. I don't know. Let me just change the screen here. I'm going to go back to, I want to unshare. How do I unshare?
That's all right. You can leave it up there, Joe.
I'm trying to see who's talking. I can't see who's talking, though, the way it is right now.
Oh, it's Tim Moore.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
So I'm unclear here. So I get all about we're up on the 17th. But the wave sheaf offering, based on what it says in the scripture, wasn't already sundown? Then you have to wait till sundown. Is the sundown? Yes, the sun is down. And is this the wave? Is this the sheep I'm going to cut? Yes, that's the sheep you're going to cut. Hasn't that already started at that point, the 18th?
Yes. That is the 18th, you're right.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
after sunset. After sunset, the Sabbath is over, it's after sunset. So when did Yeshua come back to life? At the end of the Sabbath. What time exactly? Was it 3 o'clock? Was it 6 o'clock? We can argue that to, but it's about that time.
So your feeling is that his resurrection happened before the wave sheep offering, the actual physical wave sheep offering.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The wave sheaf offering is not his resurrection.
Okay.
His resurrection had to take place in order to be able to prepare for the wave sheaf offering.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm clear now.
Man, I almost had to put Gillian on you.
Wait, what?
That was a compliment, Gillian. I was going to say, I almost needed to have you teach him again. Anyone else? Oh. And Jeremy, you're just ready in time for us to end, so sorry. So, any questions? Like, this is a good time for questions. We're done. I'm happy. I've got a great teacher to teach us here today, Jillian Beebe. She's done an awesome job, and I'm thrilled to death.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to stop share. There it is. Stop share. And we're going to stop the recording. Let me just end it with a prayer. Okay. Our Father Jehovah, our powerful and great Creator, I thank you so very much for all that you show us and all that you've done for us and the blessing you've given us. And I thank you, Father, for making it so simple to understand. And it is us who mess things up and get confused by not obeying, by not doing it, not walking it out. Help us to be clear in our understanding of your ways and your things that you're showing us and the many wonderful blessings you're giving us. So we ask you, Father, to open our minds up to understand you much better and much deeper. And we thank you, Father, for calling us at this time, how very special that calling is, and how few it is that you are doing and revealing these things to. So we thank you for that. And we ask your blessing upon these people here, Father. I ask your blessing upon them. I ask your blessing upon Jillian. Continue to help her and all these adults to grow and understand your truth and to share this truth with others. So I thank you, Father, for all that you do for us, and help us to continue to bring glory to your name all around the world. In the name of Jehovah. Amen.
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 Okay.